The first spark catches at 4:08 p.m. on a hot August afternoon. The wind is already blowing. The brush is drier than it has been in decades. Within hours, that spark becomes a monster. This is the bug fire. It is still burning right now. It has already consumed more than 93,000 acres across the California-Nevada border. That is roughly 70,000 football fields of land turned to ash. It has destroyed homes. It has injured residents. It has forced up to 13,000 people from their houses. The governor of Nevada has declared a state of emergency. This is not just another wildfire season. Something significant is happening. Today, we are going to break down exactly how this fire exploded so fast, what it means for the communities in its path, and what the data says about the western fire season ahead. No guessing, no dramatizing. Just the facts, the science, and the real stakes. If you have ever had to evacuate your home or come home to find it gone, you know what these families are going through right now. What would you grab if you had 10 minutes to leave everything behind? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Earth Dispatch because we track fires like this from ignition to containment, the numbers, the science, and the human cost every single day. The fire started east of U.S. Route 395 near Bringman Road in Lassen County, California. The time was exactly 4:08 p.m. on August 8, 2026. The Bureau of Land Management's Carson City District confirmed the fire is human-caused. They have not yet said whether it was an accident, a vehicle malfunction, or something else. The investigation is still open. But the conditions that turned that spark into an inferno were already in place. The temperature that afternoon pushed past 97 degrees Fahrenheit. In some areas, it hit 102. A heat advisory was in effect across Washoe, Lassen, and Sierra counties. Sustained winds blew at 10 to 22 miles per hour. Gusts reached 35 miles per hour. That is fast enough to carry burning embers more than a mile ahead of the main fire front. Those embers start new fires, they jump roads, they leap rivers, they turn one fire into many. The National Weather Service had issued a red flag warning. That is an official alert, meaning the conditions are perfect for a wildfire to start and spread rapidly. Dry fuel, low humidity, strong winds. All three were present. The vegetation in the area was measured at the 97th percentile on the energy release component scale. That sounds technical, but here is what it means in plain English. The energy release component measures how much energy dry vegetation could release if it burns. A 97th percentile reading means the landscape is drier than 97% of all historical readings for that date. The plants were not just dry, they were primed to explode. Think of it this way. A pile of dry leaves burns fast and hot but releases relatively little total energy. A dense stand of mature sagebrush with thick stems and deep roots burns slower but releases far more energy per square foot. The energy release component combines the type of vegetation, its moisture content, and the weather to estimate how much total energy a fire would release if it ignited right there. A reading in the 97th percentile is a warning sign fire managers take seriously. It tells them that even a small spark can turn into a large fire within hours, not days. Fire managers use this number to decide how many resources to pre-position before a fire even starts. The bug fire proved that signal correct. On the night of August 9th, the fire made its most explosive push. It grew from 50 acres to 6,500 acres in a single overnight run. That is a jump from a few city blocks to the size of a small town. The fire front moved faster than a person can run. Embers flew ahead of the main flame. They ignited spot fires in new areas. The fire was no longer a single line of flame. It was a complex of fires moving together. The first evacuation orders went out to Cold Springs and Silver Knolls. Residents had minutes to gather their belongings and leave. Some had less. This was the moment the bug fire stopped being a rural fire and became a community disaster. It crossed from California into Nevada. It began threatening populated areas, and it was nowhere near done growing. Officials use a tiered system to communicate evacuation risk. The first level is a ready order. That means residents should prepare to leave. The second level is a set order. That means the threat is imminent. The third and most urgent level is a go now order. That means leave immediately. Do not wait for confirmation. Do not try to save belongings. Get in your vehicle and go. The bug fire triggered go now orders across multiple communities. For residents of Cold Springs and Silver Knolls, the orders came with little warning. The smoke was visible. The embers were falling. The time for preparation was over. The time for action was now. What happened over the next 6 days would redefine the meaning of explosive growth. By August 10th, the fire had reached 17,000 acres. Containment was at just 4%. That means firefighters had controlled only a tiny fraction of the fire's outer edge. Then came the merger. On August 11th, the Bug Fire merged with the Fred Mountain Fire. Two fires became one. The combined blaze jumped past 44,000 acres. It now covered the California-Nevada border region in a way that made coordination between states essential. By August 12th, the fire had grown to 66,505 acres. By August 13th, it reached 88,422 acres. Containment had climbed to 31%, but the fire was still growing. Then the wind shifted. A volatile wind-driven weekend caused containment to collapse. It dropped to just 3%. Progress that firefighters had worked days to achieve was erased in hours. The fire was running again. Containment percentage is one of the most misunderstood numbers in wildfire reporting. When officials say a fire is 31% contained, they do not mean 31% of the fire is out. They mean firefighters have built control lines around 31% of the fire's perimeter. A control line is a gap in the vegetation that the fire cannot cross, a hand-dug trench, a bulldozer line, or a natural barrier like a river or a rocky ridge. But containment is fragile. A control line can fail. Wind can push embers across it. A spot fire can ignite on the other side. That is exactly what occurred during the volatile wind-driven weekend. The fire spotted across control lines in multiple locations. Firefighters had to abandon some lines and start over. The fire was not just burning, it was outrunning the people trying to stop it. By August 15th, the fire reached 93,367 acres. Some reports put it at 93,381. The difference is a matter of more precise satellite measurement. At that size, the fire is roughly 70,000 football fields of burn scar. It is about one-fifth the size of Nevada's largest recorded wildfire, the Martin Fire of 2018, which burned 439,000 acres in Humboldt County and was also human-caused, though investigators never determined the exact source. That fire was remote, burning rangeland and sagebrush. The Bug Fire is burning in the wildland-urban interface, the zone where human development meets natural vegetation, which is why the human stakes are so much higher this time. The Bug Fire is 58% contained as of August 15th. The other 42% is still uncontained. The wind is still gusting to 35 miles per hour. The conditions are still critically dry. And the emergency declaration is still in effect. At the fire's peak, 1,800 residential structures were threatened. That is nearly 2,000 homes at risk of being next. Evacuation orders swept across Washoe County. At different points, between 4,000 and 13,000 residents were told to leave. The Evelyn Mount Community Center in Reno became the Red Cross evacuation shelter. Families arrived with nothing but what they could carry. They waited for news about their homes. Some of them got good news. Some of them did not. When an evacuation order goes out, law enforcement officers go door to door in the affected areas, using loudspeakers to announce the order and checking for residents who need assistance, the elderly, the disabled, those without vehicles. The Washoe County Regional Animal Services facility took in dozens of dogs and cats from evacuated homes, because evacuation orders do not wait for a family to find a pet carrier. The American Red Cross set up cots, meals, and medical assistance at the shelter for families who had nothing but what they could grab on the way out the door. Every minute counts in an operation like this. Every decision matters. For a go-now order, that usually means leaving with documents, medication, and whoever is in the car in that moment and nothing else. But behind every acre burned, every statistic reported, there are people. And the numbers only tell part of their story. 9 homes are gone. Not 9 structures, not 9 properties. 9 homes, mostly in the Red Rock area. Real families lived in those houses. They raised children there. They watched the fire approach from evacuation centers, helpless to do anything but wait. 4 people were injured. 2 of them were flown to the UC Davis Burn Center in Sacramento for treatment of severe burns. The other 2 suffered less severe injuries and are receiving treatment closer to home. Every one of those 4 people has a name, a family, and a story that will be shaped by this fire for the rest of their lives, long after the containment percentage reaches 100 and the news cameras move on to the next story. The Red Rock area is a community of scattered homes and ranches in the foothills between the Sierra Nevada and the Great Basin. The homes there are not close together like in a city neighborhood, which makes them harder to defend. Firefighters cannot protect every structure in a fast-moving fire. They have to prioritize which homes are defensible and which are not. The 9 homes lost there are a testament to the limits of firefighting resources in extreme conditions. The families who lost their homes are now facing the long process of recovery. They will file insurance claims. They will sort through the ashes. The trauma of losing a home to fire does not end when the flames go out. It stays with people for years. Governor Joe Lombardo declared a state of emergency for Washoe County, covering both the Bug Fire and the Fred Mountain Fire. This is not a symbolic gesture. It activates the Nevada National Guard and allows the state to request federal assistance. FEMA has authorized federal funding through the Fire Management Assistance Grant Program, which reimburses state and local governments for firefighting personnel, equipment, and evacuation expenses. The emergency declaration is in effect through at least August 17th and could be extended if the fire continues to threaten communities. More than 110 firefighters are deployed in the multi-agency response, working under one coordinated command structure. 2 military helicopters are flying firefighting missions. A CH-47 Chinook and a UH-60 Black Hawk from the Nevada Army National Guard are dropping thousands of gallons of water and fire retardant on terrain that ground crews cannot access safely. The pilots have to navigate smoke-filled skies, avoid power lines, and drop their loads in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. A miss means the water is wasted. A hit means a structure is saved or a control line is held. The Chinook alone can carry up to 2,000 gallons of water in a single suspended bucket, enough to soak an area the size of a football field in one pass. The Black Hawk is smaller and faster, carrying up to 660 gallons per drop, useful for hitting spot fires before they grow. Together with the 110 firefighters on the ground, these aircraft form the backbone of the response, but even this combined force is stretched thin against 93,000 acres of active fire. If the wind does not ease and the containment lines do not hold, the realistic next step is grim but not exotic. It looks like what has already happened once this week, containment slipping backward as embers jump control lines, new evacuation orders issued with little warning, and the fire pushing further into Washoe County's populated foothills. Emergency managers are already watching the same wind forecasts that drove the August 9th overnight explosion because the terrain and fuel conditions that made that possible have not changed. The best case is a slow, steady climb in containment as crews hold their lines through the coming days. The worst case is another rapid run like the one that turned 50 acres into 6,500 acres overnight. The Reno Sparks Indian Colony was also threatened. This is a federally recognized tribe with deep historical and cultural ties to this land. The fire came close to their community, and evacuation plans were activated. Tribal emergency managers worked alongside county and state officials, setting up their own communication networks and providing transportation for elders who could not drive themselves. The Reno Sparks Indian Colony issued its own declaration of emergency and ordered mandatory evacuations for its Hungry Valley community, opening the Reno Gym as an evacuation center. But the fear does not disappear when the danger passes. It lingers, and it makes people wonder if the next fire will be the one that takes everything. The Reno Sparks Indian Colony has lived on this land for generations, and its emergency managers had to run the same evacuation math as every county agency nearby. How many elders needed transportation? How many households had a vehicle? How many minutes stood between a set warning and a go-now order if the wind shifted again? The investigation into how the fire started is a separate but critical part of the response. When a fire is confirmed human-caused, investigators from the Bureau of Land Management work the point of origin like any other scene, looking for physical evidence, interviewing anyone who was in the area, and checking nearby vehicles and equipment for signs of what threw the spark. A dragging tow chain can throw sparks hot enough to ignite dry grass. An unattended campfire can smolder for hours before flaring up. A power line arcing in high wind can do the same. In some cases, the cause turns out to be accidental. In others, if evidence points to something deliberate, the person responsible can face serious criminal charges. The Bureau of Land Management has not released the specific evidence it is working from, only that the investigation into the events of August 8th near Bringman Road remains open. The bug fire is not burning in a vacuum. It is part of a catastrophic season stretching the entire country's firefighting resources to the breaking point. Utah has seen more than 456,000 acres go up in flames in 2026 alone, an area larger than the entire state of Rhode Island. Wyoming is at elevated risk. The National Interagency Fire Center has set the national preparedness level to 5, the highest possible rating, meaning nearly all available firefighting crews and equipment are already committed to active fires elsewhere. In a normal year, a fire of 93,000 acres would have several hundred firefighters assigned. The bug fire has 110 because the rest are fighting fires in Utah, Idaho, Montana, and California. The system is designed to handle a certain level of fire activity, and that level has been exceeded. The science behind this pattern is well established. Warmer temperatures dry out vegetation faster. Snowpack melts earlier in the spring. The summer dry season extends further into the fall, creating a longer window when fires can ignite and spread. The average number of large fires per year has more than doubled since the 1980s, and the average area burned has more than tripled. This is not just a Western United States problem. Canada has seen record fire seasons. Australia has seen catastrophic fires. The Mediterranean region, from Portugal to Greece, has watched entire hillsides burn in recent summers under the same combination of heat, drought, and wind. The bug fire is one data point in a much larger story, but it is a data point happening right now, affecting real people in Washoe County tonight. The Martin fire comparison matters for another reason beyond size. That 2018 fire was sparked by lightning in remote Humboldt County, far from major population centers, which is part of why it could burn for nearly a month without threatening thousands of homes. The bug fire is a fraction of its size, but it ignited in the wildland-urban interface, close enough to Reno that tens of thousands of residents in the metro area have been under evacuation orders or warnings. Fire scientists have long warned that this is the real danger of the coming decades, not necessarily bigger fires everywhere, but fires burning closer to where people actually live. The wildland-urban interface, the zone where subdivisions and rural neighborhoods sit right up against open brush and forest, has expanded across the American West for decades as development pushes further into fire country. Every new subdivision built at the edge of that brush is another set of homes that firefighters will eventually have to defend under conditions like the ones burning right now near Reno. So, where does that leave us? The bug fire is 58% contained, but containment is not a guarantee. It already went backward once, dropping to just 3% during that volatile wind-driven weekend. The wind is still gusting to 35 miles per hour. The critically dry conditions are still in place. The investigation into the human cause is still ongoing. Investigators are examining the point of origin near Bringman Road, interviewing witnesses, and asking the public for any information about activity in the area on the afternoon of August 8th. That answer determines legal liability, insurance claims, and whether someone faces criminal charges. Full containment for a fire this size can take weeks. The Martin fire took more than a month. The bug fire could be faster, or it could surprise everyone. Wind, terrain, and fuel are still working against the firefighters on the line. The terrain adds another layer of difficulty. The area around the California-Nevada border is a mix of sagebrush steppe, juniper woodland, and rugged canyon country, with elevation ranging from 4,000 to 8,000 feet. The canyons channel the wind, making fire behavior more erratic. Firefighters cannot always use bulldozers here. They have to dig control lines by hand in the heat and smoke. It is exhausting, dangerous work, and every firefighter on that line knows the risks. They keep working anyway because the alternative is more homes lost and more families displaced. This is the reality of living with fire in the American West. The contrast is stark. 9 families in the Red Rock area lost everything, their homes reduced to ash. But families in Cold Springs and Silver Knolls evacuated and returned to find their homes still standing, same fire, same wind, same conditions, different outcomes determined by minutes and miles. That is the cruel math of wildfire. Preparation and timing matter more than luck. The families who had go bags ready left faster. The families who had evacuation plans knew exactly where to go. The families who waited to see how bad it would get put themselves and the firefighters trying to reach them at greater risk. The data is already telling us what comes next. Fire seasons will continue to intensify. Communities will continue to be threatened. The only question is how we prepare. The bug fire is both a tragedy and a warning. The 9 families who lost their homes are living through the worst days of their lives, and their loss is permanent. But the fire is also a message to every community in the West. We can build fire-resistant homes. We can create defensible space. We can have evacuation plans ready before the flames arrive, or we can wait for the next fire, and there will be a next fire in Nevada, in Utah, in Wyoming, or somewhere else in a Western landscape that is drier and hotter than it used to be. The question is not whether it will come. The question is whether we will be ready. Have you ever had to pack a go bag or evacuate? What did you learn from that experience? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Earth Dispatch because we will keep tracking the bug fire until it is fully contained. We will bring you the containment numbers as they change, and we will be there for the next fire, the next flood, the next disaster. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what communities in fire country are facing right now.